The most unusual show that I go to in our field, kind of peripherally in our field, is the Channel Partners show. It's known by most people for good reason as a telco or at least a master agent type of show. But the reality is they've been reaching out for years to become part of, to make it a more mainstream MSP/IT provider event. And they recently, or at least in the last few years, kind of merged it with their MSP Summit, either in the same physical space or just having them back to back next to each other. And that really happened again this year. The signage and the way they execute on that, at least to me, is a little confusing, but they are becoming one show. And they do throw a big show, and it was well attended, and there was good information, overall quite good, and their show floor is large. I mean, it approaches the size of a small interop show floor. They have more space per vendor than you see anywhere, just about, and they had a lot of vendors. And because it's not a mainstream show, you know, in the ASCII Channel Pro, Kaseya, Robin Robbins, you know, mainstream, IT Connect, whatever, it's more diverse. There are vendors you'll see there you won't see at those other shows, sometimes for good reason, but generally speaking, you can meet more vendors you've not yet heard of at their show than most MSP-oriented shows, if not.
Yeah, it looked attractive. You know how it is. You always see the photos on LinkedIn and Facebook, and it looked like a handsome audience. Seriously, it looked like a good show.
Good. I'm not sure about the handsome part. I was there all the time, but it was it's well done. It's well presented. There's questions about, you know, how. The funny thing is it's always or almost always in the same venue, or at least one of two venues. And it's still kind of confusing to figure out where registration is because it's inside the main show floor, which you can't get to till you've passed through all the other spaces. And I always have a great time watching people, you know, try to figure out where to go to register. So I'll stand around and help people. There's always little charges like anybody else, but little challenges. But yes, it is a good show, big show floor, a lot of vendors, a lot of diversity for across the crowd that we're used to seeing, and presentations and concepts that we don't deal with. I will tell you that the shows like this, especially the ones that, you know, Telarus, TBI, Sandler, et cetera, put on, so they're really master agent shows, those are a lot more old school salesy type folk than we're used to dealing with in the MSP crowd. Nobody became a master agent or even became a telco or a service provider by being a techie that stumbled into having a business. That's an MSP thing, right? These guys are working for 1,000, you know, person organizations, and they have their MBAs, and they've been selling for 30 years, and yada yada yada. These are salespeople that now are in tech, as opposed to tech people who have to sell. So it's really different that way too.
No, I would concur. Now, is Channel Partners just once a year, or will they have a fall show? Do you know?
So the answer is no, they're not just. That's only because they've changed their calendar around. This show was always in April for years. The only ones I went to were in April, but they, like everybody else, they lost 2020. In 2021, they moved it to the fall and made it a cohabitated space with MSP Summit.
Okay.
So they did the same thing this year in terms of having both shows together, but brought it back to its ordinary April date. Now, give me just a second. I think they have, I got to look at my calendar. I think they have another show. Well, nope, I'm making the same mistake a lot of people do and confusing them with Channel Futures. There is something actually right around the time of the show you're doing, if I remember right. Don't you have a mid-September show, Harry, out there somewhere?
No,
yours is mid-June. That's right.
Yeah, June. Yeah, the third week of June.
Third week of June. My mistake. So there is a Channel Future show. It's a little confusing to understand how Channel Partners, Channel Pro, Channel Futures, and then Informa, who's a kind of a parent
huge publisher.
Yeah, and owns some of those shows, Channel Futures and Channel Partners, from what I understand. And of course, now there's Channel Program because there wasn't enough channeling going on. All I can honestly say is I would need to channel my inner analyst to really be sure about who all the channels are. But I believe that they have a second show this year. And if I'm confusing channel futures with them, I apologize. But the MSP 501 show,
Yeah.
I know it happens in September, middle of September in Orlando, and I believe it's a related show.
All right. Well, hey, before we go, ASCII group in Chicago, how was that?
That was good. It was big. It was, a full-size show, back to normal. That, they've been throwing their shows since May of last year, so they've had a running start. And they were lucky enough to sell out. Well, maybe luck is not the right word, but anyway, they're always sold out for vendors for the year. They were before the year started, from what I remember.
Yeah,
and it's busy. People were there. It was a full recovery kind of show. Everything was there, and it was also very good. A little more of the vendors we're used to as MSPs, because of course it's an MSP show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. We all the expected things from the vendors to the poker game after all the things you expect out of an ASCII show. And there were new faces and new members, which is nice too, because that was slow for a couple of years, but it's certainly recovering quickly.
Yep. All right, my friend. Well, thanks for your continued contribution. Let's hope we meet up soon at a show. How about that?
All right, Harry. Thank you very much for your time too.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.